Dear Dhamma friends, we have come to the Dhamma sermon of this English medium retreat. May you give your consent by saying Sadhu Sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Dear Dhamma friends, actually we were discussing Anapanasati Sutta for several months, and last time actually we were able to conclude that. I just remind a couple of important parts in Anapanasati Sutta because it is much relevant to our practice. Basically, Anapanasati Sutta begins with that Buddha deciding, recommending Anapanasati for many monks who were practicing various other types of meditation techniques, and there Buddha has explained the way that Anapanasati can be developed so that all four foundations of mindfulness, Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana and Dhammanupassana could be fulfilled. And not only that, by fulfilling all four Satipatthanas, one can fulfill all 7 enlightenment factors, and then completing that fulfillment of 7 enlightenment factors, one can fulfill Vijja Vimutti, that is the knowledge and freedom. So we have explained that in detail, and if you are interested, you can visit Nissarana.lk website, and it's available there. And it's quite interesting and giving a lot of information related to how one can develop 4 foundations of mindfulness and the 7 enlightenment factors, and again knowledge and freedom just merely by using Anapanasati. So it is therefore quite interesting to understand these details, because then one will have good faith, good confidence about one's practice. Since we were discussing fairly related to this kind of some practical and meditation related topic, I thought of taking another type of topic which is somewhat related to philosophy and somewhat related to the open thinking of Buddha's teaching, and that is Chanki Sutta, which is in Majjhima Nikaya. That is the 95th Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. So this is related to a very interesting incident happened during the Buddha's time, and there was a kind of a tradition in the Buddha's time that there are many various Brahmin teachers maybe, and when they are doing really well and teaching many students, so they were being respected by the king. And such teachers are there, like for example Pokkarasati, and then one that for this particular sutta, the main Brahmin is called Chanki. So this Brahmin Chanki was living in the village called Opasada, and actually that is a village belonging to King Pasenadi Kosala. The King Kosala was one of the Magadha king, and he was really established king and very powerful king. And one of the village was ruled by this Brahmin Chanki, and the sort of that village given to him is called Opasada. So on one occasion, Buddha and the disciples are visiting that particular village. So you know that Buddha didn't just spend time in a particular place, rather he used to travel from one place to the other place. But there are certain instances like he was staying in Shravasti for a long period, and again at some other places for a consecutive years. But on the other times he was used to travel with fellow monks. So in this occasion, Buddha was visiting this particular village called Opasada, and now he has found a grove, that's a Sala grove, which is actually given for Devas, basically people are doing various rituals there, and sort of a kind of a place where the monks can stay. So Buddha and the monks are staying in this particular garden, the grove, and now the kind of the news spreading all around the village. Basically, so the good news about the Buddha, that he has come from Sakyan family, and he was very pure in his morality, and has well respected by Brahmins, kings, and various merchants. And there are a lot of monks gone forth in his tradition, and likewise there are a lot of good name spreading all around the region, and therefore many people started to visit him. So on one day, this Brahmin Chanki is just having a rest in his palace, and he now see that there are many people going towards this particular place where Buddha is residing. And he was a little wondering why these people are going group by group to the same place, to the same direction. And he asked from one of his ministers, why this good minister, why these people are going all to this particular place. Then the minister who is assisting him is explaining that Sakyan family, Venerable Gautama, the ascetic Gautama, has now come to this particular place. He is residing there, and that is because these people are now going to meet him, to see him, or to pay respect to him. So this Chanki also now, the Brahmin Chanki, also now get to know more details about the Buddha. And now he is sending a message to these people that he too likes to come with them to see the Buddha. And this message was a little unpleasant message to certain other Brahmins. They are more faith on Brahmin Chanki than the Buddha. So there are many other visiting Brahmins to that particular village, and they also got the message that this Chanki Brahmin is now going to meet the Buddha, and that they didn't like. They instead like Buddha visiting Brahmin Chanki. So they immediately approach Brahmin Chanki, and now they are advising Brahmin Chanki, telling, don't go to recluse Gautama, because you are more senior. You are a Brahmin, you are a teacher for many Brahmin students, and your clan is the Brahmin clan, and you are pure for the 7 generations. Among Brahmins there's a big belief, strong belief on their generations. From their mother's side, for 7 generations he is coming from the Brahmin clan. From the father's side, they are coming from for 7 generations from Brahmin clans. So this is something very important for Brahmins. So these other Brahmins are now reminding all these facts to Brahmin Chanki, telling that you are so pure. Your parents are the Brahmins, and parents are also Brahmins. Likewise, for 7 generations you are from Brahmin clan. So you are therefore very powerful, very strong, very pure. Not only that, you are very wealthy. So Pasenadi Kosala, the king Pasenadi Kosala, has given you enough wealth. All this whole village belong to you, and it has a lot of assets, a lot of wealth, and you are the owner of everything. So you are very powerful, you are very wealthy, and you are well versed in the 3 Vedas. Brahmins are, that is something that is quite important for Brahmins, and this particular Chanki is well versed in the 3 Vedas, and therefore he is one of the renowned teacher, honorable teacher in that side, in that region, and he is teaching to around 300 Brahmin youths, and they are also well versed and well educated, and they are also well versed in the 3 Vedas. So you can understand it's a very respected, renowned Brahmin. And then he is not only just aware of the Vedas, the books, but he knows the etymology and the history of them, and the grammar, and all these very minor details, he is well versed. You can understand he is not just a teacher, but a very renowned teacher, like a professor in today's terms. And not only that, the book says that he is good in the philosophy and all the how these Vedas have come from, not just merely the today's terms, but the previous generation, how they have come from, the previous generation, how they have preserved all these things. So he knows all this, even the philosophical and the historical background of even the Vedas. And not only that, now these other Brahmins are reminding him, you are also very beautiful, you are very handsome, and you are very much graceful, and you are some person that sort of gracing a particular occasion. Therefore, Venerable Gautama or ascetic Gautama is very much better to pay respect to you or come to you rather than you going to him. And again, you are very virtuous, and you are not killing animals, stealing, sexual misconduct, all these things. And you are really virtuous, and you keep the term. You are not simply lie. You are really respected because of your morality. So that is something, again, this particular teacher, Brahmin Chanki, preserving and deserving, and therefore these other Brahmins are reminding that. And again, he is well venerated by King Pasenadi Kosala, and well venerated by the other Brahmins and various other families. So likewise, the other Brahmins are now trying to stop Chanki going to the Buddha. Now Chanki started to answer. Now he is telling, not only me, ascetic Gautama also from the good clan. He is from Sakyan family. He is from a very wealthy family. You know, his father is a king and mother is a queen, and he is not a simple person. He too has gone forth at his prime youth. He hasn't come to the robes when he was at its late stage, but rather when his mothers and fathers and now reluctantly or trying to stop him, he has gone forth. And that is how he was searching in search of the truth. And therefore he is also coming from a really wealthy family, very renowned family, and his generation also such pure. Now these Brahmins were telling Brahmin Chanki about his generation, about the purity. Now Chanki is explaining how the Buddha is pure in all his generations. He is from the Sakyan family for many generations. So therefore Buddha also deserves this parents or generations purity coming from the good clan, Sakyan family. And again, Buddha also maintains good respect from many other kings. You know, this King Bimbisara and his queens have gone forth to the refuge towards the Buddha. And King Pasenadi Kosala also has, with his wife and the children, has gone refuge under the Buddha. And there is another renowned Brahmin called Pokkarasati. He is also gone under the refuge of the Buddha. So likewise now Chanki is explaining the good side of the Buddha. And therefore I better go to the Buddha. And now he is giving another reason. Typically, when someone coming from outside to our village, he becomes the guest. The tradition is the owners of the village visiting the guest rather than guests coming to the owners. So therefore it is my duty, my responsibility to go to the Buddha. So likewise now Brahmin Chanki was able to convince the other Brahmins, and he now joined in the group. Now he too with several other students, now he is visiting the Buddha, and now Buddha is ready to accept them, and now they have exchanged some cordial, typical conversation. Typically when someone comes, Buddha don't immediately go to some doctrinal aspects, rather they simply get into some cordial discussion, and now that has finished. And then they start some kind of a philosophical discussion, and while the some older Brahmins, including this Brahmin Chanki, were discussing with the Buddha, there was one young Brahmin called Karpatika. He disturbs, he interrupts. So you can understand kind of a situation. Now say you are in a group, you are a kind of a, say someone is like a teacher and he is accompanying many of his students, and now you and several your old respected Brahmins are discussing with the guest teacher, and while they are discussing some, say, doctrinal matter or some philosophical matter, there is another 16 years old Brahmin is interrupting. You can see this is a little not appropriate. Now Buddha now interrupting this young Brahmin and tell you have to wait. Don't interrupt this elders' discussion. Now I am discussing with these elders. You should not interrupt this discussion. Rather, you have to wait. This is a kind of a interesting situation. But you know, this Chanki, Brahmin Chanki, is giving kind of a recommendation about this young Karpatika. It's a very interesting situation. This Karpatika, even though he is young, even though he is simply 16 years old, he is really wise. So this is the kind of very interesting situation. You know, even though there are people very old and appears like experts, there may be some exceptional cases. Even though they are young, they have a very good knowledge. They have some exceptional understanding, exceptional wisdom. So this Karpatika is someone like that. So now Brahmin Chanki is giving a recommendation about Brahmin Karpatika to the Buddha. It's very interesting. Now he is telling Bhante, recluse Gautama, so don't say about like this to Karpatika. Karpatika is well gone forth. He is also pure in all 7 generations, and he is good in his virtue, morality, and he is well versed in all 3 Vedas, and he is capable of even interrupting our discussion. You can understand now the teacher is giving a very interesting recommendation about one of his students. Very interesting. Now Buddha understood, now people understood the skills, the capabilities of the Karpatika, this young Karpatika, and therefore, and Buddha understood, now I can even get into this young Brahmin and start a kind of some strong conversation. But when Buddha was telling that you have to wait while the elders are discussing, Karpatika also understood, and he restrained himself, and he is thinking, okay, if Buddha look at me, and when the eye to eye connection happens, then I speak. Otherwise I keep silent. It's very interesting. So now Buddha understood, okay, now Karpatika has restrained himself, and now he is waiting till I look at him, and then eye to eye connection happen. And now the proper occasion happens, and now Buddha look at him, and now he is expecting that conversation. So when the Buddha look at Brahmin Karpatika, now Karpatika understood, okay, recluse Gautama has looked at me, and he is now waiting for my input, some kind of a question. This is my opportunity. So he understood. Now he is putting his question. This whole sutta is now getting to the discussion between Karpatika and the Buddha. It seems like the Karpatika is one of the renowned Brahmin student who has some really deeper understanding and has some very exceptional wisdom. So Buddha also understood, now it is easy to get into this young guy rather than these old people. You know, in sometimes our Bhante Dhammajiva used to tell, it is easy to tell meditation to young people than older people. I don't know whether this is true in this situation also, but somehow Buddha decides, okay, now it is the time to discuss with Kapatika, and now he look at him, and now Kapatika is putting a question. What is the question? He is telling Bhante, this we are learning all these Vedas, and our teachers are telling, and we are out of faith, we learn everything, and our teachers are telling, and we are also telling, and this is the truth, everything else is false. Idameva saccam mogamanya. This is the truth, everything else is empty, false. What do you think about this? It's a very interesting question. So this young guy is not just blindly like to believe in essence, rather he wants to question this kind of faith. Is it all right to just continue in this faith, or is it questionable? Now he is putting a kind of a radical question. Now Buddha is asking, are there any teachers telling that he understood this truth totally, and he saw the truth totally, and only this is truth because I understood it, because I well saw the truth, and because of that this is only the truth, everything else is false? Is there any of your teacher telling like that? Any of one of your teachers claim like that? Then Kapatika says, no, they are not telling like that. How about the previous teachers? Have they made any such claim that I have understood the whole truth, and this is the only truth, and I have well seen it, well experienced it, therefore this is the only truth, everything else is false? Have the previous generation of your teachers have told them? No. So Kapatika is honestly sort of answering the Buddha. And then Buddha is telling, now you know all these Vedas are coming from different Brahmins. There are many rishis, different names are given in the Sutta. These are the sort of the creators or the formers or the compilers of these Vedas, and even them didn't claim that they have completely understood this truth, completely realized this truth, therefore this is the only truth, everything else is false. Even they didn't tell like that. Therefore, if you are simply blindly out of faith, if you are simply telling this is the only truth, everything else is false, then it is not proper to accept. Now you can understand the logic that Buddha is trying to tell, that if someone is telling that I have really realized, completely realized this truth, I have saw the truth, therefore this is the only truth, everything else is false. If someone is telling like that out of conviction, out of realization, out of experience, not by just merely blindly out of faith that they are telling, rather they themselves have realized, they themselves have understood, then it is something valid. But none of them are telling like that. Rather it is kind of partially out of faith they are telling like that. Therefore Buddha is telling this is something kind of a blind belief. Out of faith they are believing, but not very factual, not really realization, based on realization. So once Buddha has said that, then Kapatika puts another question. But it is not only faith, but there's another reason. It is coming from oral tradition also. You know, the Vedas are coming from oral tradition. One generation to the other tradition, they are coming orally, they are memorizing the whole scriptures. You can understand during the Buddha's time, there are no computers, no internet, so you can't get all these things instantly. So everything has to be memorized from generation to generation, That is how it has come, oral tradition. Now Buddha is telling, now you have asked the question based on faith, telling that all these doctrine, Vedas and all this doctrine possessed by the Brahmins, now you are believing out of faith. Now you are telling that not only faith, they are coming from generation to generation as an oral tradition. Now that is also the same. If something is coming out of oral tradition, and if you are simply believing it, thinking this is the only truth, everything else is false, then that is also a kind of a blind belief. And then Buddha is going to some detail about 5 such important categories. So that is some kind of an essence in this sutta. And now Buddha is telling there are 5 things which can come into 2 types of differences. So these 5 things are called, first one called faith, saddha. So what Buddha is trying to tell is there may be something out of faith that one is believing. So when one is believing something as truth, it does not necessary to be really a truth. You can even believe something false. So this is very important fact, and this is how Buddha is opening our minds. This is how Buddha allows us to question even his Dhamma, even his teaching. So we need to understand Buddha has given this freedom of thinking. So out of faith, this saddha is one aspect. So the point here Buddha is pointing out is that even if someone is believing something out of faith, there could be possibility the truth is not there. Even though he is very respectfully out of faith he is believing, but still that facts, still that information, still that whatever the belief might not or may not have the truth. There may be something that he has discarded, thinking it is not true. These are all wrong. There the truth may be available. So you can understand this faith, simply believing out of faith, thinking what I am out of faith believing carries the truth. This is the only truth. Everything else is false, is something going to an extreme. There you don't have the open mind. So what Buddha recommend here is, therefore, don't come to a conclusion merely by faith. So what you are believing out of faith might not have the truth, and what you have discarded, what you have eliminated, what you have disproved might have the truth. So therefore we have to have this kind of an attitude every time till we come to the real realization. We have to have a really flexible mind. We should not have any kind of a strong ditti or strong kind of a belief. This is the only truth, everything else is false. Buddha is recommending us to have some kind of a flexibility in our belief, kind of an attitude of questioning, attitude of investigation, so that we can even have openness to accept something radical, accept something that we have even discarded some time ago, to have some open-minded attitude so that we can even investigate that what we have even discarded, what we have even thought which is wrong. And the second one is called ruchi, that we have sometimes likes. Okay, I like this particular truth, I like this tradition, I like Buddhism, I like this ritual, I like this particular temple, I like this particular monastery, I like this particular country. So we have our own likes and dislikes. So when someone has this kind of a ruchi, some kind of a like, some kind of an approval, so then we start to believe that sect. Say for example, you are believing a particular monk or someone, some tradition as because that is what you like. But can we assure, just because you like that particular truth, just because you like that particular person, does he or that particular place or that particular teaching really carries the truth? We can't sure. Because even though we like it, it might not have the truth. Even though we dislike something, still it can have the truth. So this is the next stage that Buddha is telling. So there may be certain things that we simply believe out of our likes, but still it might not have the truth. And something we have discarded because we don't like it can carry the truth. Therefore Buddha is telling the someone who is really protecting the truth, someone really preserve the truth, have to have the open-minded attitude where even though I am sort of preserving this truth because of I like, because I really desire that, or I have some inclination towards that, still it might not have the truth. But still I am protecting it. So this kind of an attitude, flexibility, is something that Buddha is recommending. So this second part is called ruchi. Now these two aspects, something coming out of faith and coming out of likes, are somewhat emotional. We have some faith. As Buddhists, we have some faith. And we have some inclination towards some kind of a teaching. So that is coming as a likes, ruchi. So this is something emotional. So emotionally we like something. Emotionally we like some doctrine. Emotionally we like some teaching. And so these coming out of faith or coming out of likes still can carry the truth or might not carry the truth. So therefore we need to have some kind of a openness, some kind of a flexibility in our mind to have the ability to even to shift our attention, even to shift our belief, even to look at something else, even to investigate some other teaching. This is something Buddha is recommending here. And the third aspect is Buddha called the anussava. That is the oral tradition. That there may be certain teachings coming from oral tradition, generation to generation. It was preserved, in maybe scriptures, maybe in palm leaves or whatever the way, the teachings were preserved. In the Brahminical tradition, there are Upanishad and all different aspects are there. So all these things are preserved generation to generation. One generation teaching another generation, another young generation, they are reciting it, memorizing it, and preserving it. Then they are teaching to the next generation, they are reciting it, memorizing it, preserving it. Likewise, generation to generation, things have come. So Buddha says, if you are simply believing, thinking that it was preserved from oral tradition, come from one generation to the other generation, simply thinking this is the only truth, everything else is false, is not valid, not correct. So you should preserve it, doesn't matter. You can protect it, but still, Buddha says you have to have an open mind that it, even though I preserve it, even though as an oral tradition I am protecting it, it might or might not have the truth. And then Buddha is going to the next stage. There's another one called akara parivitakka. So that is, can be translated as kind of reasoning, coming from inference. Something inferential knowledge. If something is true for this, that also can be true. So likewise, you are rationally analyzing something, and inferentially you can say, okay, this is also true. So this is something that sometimes we can come to even to the present day, that we might not have the real experiment, but out of facts we can deduct, because of these facts, this can be the result, this should be the way. Likewise, you can come to some deductions, inferential knowledge. So akara parivitakka. So Buddha says, now even what you are believing out of this reasoning, out of this rational thinking, out of this deductive knowledge, might or might not have the truth. So it's very going to deeper and deeper. And the last one, Buddha says, Ditti Nijjana Kanti. That is where you are reflecting, you are thinking again and again, reflecting, and out of reflection you come into some kind of an acceptance. Okay, I have thought about it. So there are many thinking going behind this kind of an acceptance. So you are thinking, and out of thinking you are coming to some kind of a conclusion. You know, we are very fond of thinking. So we think. When we have no work, no other work, we like to think. So we are thinking machines. So we like to think. So people are very fond of thinking. There are many thinkers. And therefore they come into various philosophies. Okay, I thought about this. So this is the way things have to happen. So they come into certain conclusions. And they impose that. And we also sometimes believe. Okay, I also thought about that. It should be the correct thing. So likewise, out of thinking we can believe. And there are certain other aspects Buddha has mentioned. You know, when we recognize something, we do it based on the outer appearance typically. So that is called sanya. So we see something, and we see the various aspects, we see the color, we see the shape, and we get various signs, and out of that we think it is permanent. Okay, this is good, it is beautiful, this is the correct thing. So that level of perception is something we all have, and out of perception we come to certain conclusions. So this is the way it is. This should be the truth. This should be the correct thing. Everything else is false. So this is one stage. At the sanya level, at the perception level, we can come to certain conclusions. But not only that we might build upon that what we have seen, what we have recognized, what we have perceived. Now we are thinking, not just from the face value. Now we think about it again and again. Is it true? Is it false? Is it true for the next generation? Or likewise we may be thinking. So based on some level of thinking we can come to a conclusion. So that is called the chitta level, where we don't stop at the perception level, but we come to another level that we think based on the facts, based on the information. And that is where another conclusions we can make. And sometimes we can go even beyond that. We are thinking too much. We are again and again thinking about the same line. Then we are going to a kind of a ditti. We are going to some kind of a belief, kind of a strong belief, and then it is very difficult to change. So likewise, Buddha has mentioned three kinds of vipallasa, what you call as perversions. When we are seeing something, we immediately think, oh, this is the truth, this is the correct color, this is the real nature, this is the real appearance, this is the real shape. Likewise, we immediately come to conclusions out of the look and feel. So that is one aspect. You know, this is the very much the level that the advertisements are playing. So various advertisements are there. So when a beautiful woman is there, so we immediately believe, okay, this is the best product. Or if there is a very rich rook is there, okay, we believe, okay, this is the best product. This is the most nutritious food. So we immediately go to belief. That is just the appearance level. And on the other hand, things are repeatedly telling us, okay, in the typical advertisements, okay, again and again putting it. It may be the entirely wrong, entirely false, but again and again putting, we also tend to think about it. So that's another way. So we are being conditioned now. Our mind is conditioned to some extent. So then we start to believe, okay, this may be the really nutritious milk powder. So this may be the real fashion today. So I also should try that. So this may be the correct. This may be the truth. Because again and again being told. Everywhere we go, it is the one something being heard. So likewise our mind being conditioned. So that is the thinking level. And there may be the other one that again and again many people are telling, and we also start to believe, and we also think more and more about it, and we come to a real conclusion. We come to a real belief. And that is where people go to certain extremes. So it is very difficult to change it. Then it is very much like ingrained. So we strongly believe it. We strongly hold it. We strongly grasp. But everything what we have started are all perverted. It is not the real truth. Everything we started out of science, these signs are not the truth. Signs are always changing, but our minds are projecting some permanency there. Our minds are projecting some happiness there. Our minds are projecting some self there, where there is no self, where there is no real happiness, where there is no real essence, there is no real permanency. Everything is transient, but our minds are projecting all these perversions. But we still believe. And then we go to the next level. We think about what we have seen, what we have heard, what we have experienced. And out of that, we come to the conclusion at our mind level. And then we go beyond that. Again and again we think, again and again we think. We condition the mind to the very deeper level, and then it's very difficult to change. Still perverted views. So therefore this thinking actually lead into very difficult corners of our life, very difficult areas in our belief, very difficult areas in our perception. Now here, Akara Parivitakka level, that is where Buddha is telling the reasoning is some aspect. Then the Ditti Nijjana Kanti, the reflective knowledge, that we are out of thinking, believing something. All these two, Akara Parivitakka and Ditti Nijjana Kanti, reasoning or inferential knowledge, and the reflective, thinking, rational knowledge. These are actually based on the facts. These are actually based on the thinking. These are actually based on the logical thinking. But here also Buddha is telling, someone who really likes to protect the truth does not come to an entire conclusion or complete conclusion or thinking that this is the only truth, everything else is false. He still thinks, I may be protecting this, I may be believing this, I may be preserving this, but still there's a possibility truth may not be available here, truth may be available somewhere else. So you can understand the level that Buddha has explaining here primarily contains these 5 aspects. 2 aspects are coming very much into the emotional level, where we are believing based on the saddha, based on the faith. Next is based on our likes. I like it. This is something approval to me, approving to me. This is something desirable to me. So likewise we go to the belief. Likewise we go to the thinking, acceptance. The next one, the third one is the anusava, the oral tradition. Coming from one tradition to the other tradition, because of the book, it is mentioned there, so we are believing that. The last 2 is based on the rational thinking, where we come to some kind of deductive knowledge, inferential knowledge, or something rationally we think, logically think, and then we come to the conclusion. So Buddha is telling to this Kapatika now, all these 5 ways of knowledge, all these 5 ways of understanding, all these 5 ways of belief might not carry the truth, and something you disprove, something you have discarded, something you have disbelieved can carry the truth. So now Kapatika was somewhat really amazed by the Buddha's answer, because he asked something interesting, thinking that maybe some kind of an approval from the Buddha, because Buddha was renowned and well respected, and now he is trying to get an approval from the Buddha of what he is believing with Brahmanical knowledge, all Vedas. Now this Kapatika and all the Brahmins are believing, thinking that this is the only truth, everything else is false. Now he is putting that question to the Buddha. And Buddha tells, no, don't be in a hurry to think this is the only truth, everything else is false. Out of faith, you can't tell like that. And out of likes, you can't tell like that. Since it is coming from oral tradition, still you can't tell like that. When it is coming because of the deductive knowledge, inferential knowledge, still you can't tell like that. Even if it is rationally, logically correct, still you can't tell like that. Therefore, have an open-minded attitude. Have a kind of a attitude, kind of a flexible, where you can even shift. You can radically go to another way. And that is the way of really protection of the truth. So this beautiful term there is called Saccānu Rakha, where someone who really preserves the truth. The one who preserves the truth, Buddha says, maybe he is preserving the truth out of faith, but he does not come to a conclusion thinking this is the only truth, everything else is false. The one who preserves the truth may be preserving the truth preserving the truth because he likes it, likes that teaching, but still he does not come to the conclusion this is the only truth, everything else is false. The one who preserving the truth may be preserving it because it is coming out of oral tradition, but still he don't come to a strong conclusion thinking this is the only truth, everything else is false. The one who preserves the truth may be preserving that because it appears like truth out of deductive knowledge, rational thinking, logical thinking, it appears like truth. But he does not come to a conclusion thinking this is the only truth, that everything else is false. So he has to maintain some kind of an open attitude. So this is something Buddha has recommended. This is something Buddha has encouraged throughout his teaching. So Buddha's teaching is inviting us to question, inviting us to come and see. It is not something come and believe. It is not something coming out of nowhere and asking us to believe. Rather, asking us to come and investigate, asking us to come and see for yourself. Ehipassiko. Ehipassiko is one of the qualities of the Dhamma which is very much not available in any other teachings. Most of the other teachings are like come and believe. This is the only truth. Everything else is false. If you don't believe, you go to the hell. But Buddha's teaching inviting us to come and see, inviting us to come and investigate, inviting us to see whether you can really practice it, see whether you can really experience it. Even today, it is not something gone only to the past. It is not valid only in the past, but even today it has to be valid. Even today it has to be experiential. Even today, something that you would be able to experience, investigate by yourself, not by others, by yourself. So this is something very important, and this is something that we need to appreciate, and this is something we need to try to test. Is that impermanence that Buddha is telling is really true? Is this suffering, is this unsatisfactoriness Buddha is telling is really true? Is this non-self Buddha is telling, is it really true? So these are the things that we can really investigate. These are the things that we can really observe, really search, really examine when we are trying to do the meditation. Say for example, you are examining a particular feeling, for example. Say you have some unwavering mind, well-established mindfulness, good concentration, and now that well-concentrated mind, you are focused on a particular feeling. And this is the experiment that you are trying to do now. It is not that Buddha is imposing anything here. Buddha has given some guidance. But with that guidance, we ourselves have to do the experiment. We ourselves have to walk the path. We can't simply blindly believe it. So therefore, even today that there was a question, is it proper to see these thoughts as anicca? Rather than simply believing it, we simply have to see it. We simply have to observe it in a neutral manner. We should not take to any kind of an extreme, thinking it is true or thinking it is false. Rather, we are maintaining kind of an open attitude here, very investigative attitude, examining attitude, and we ourselves have to see it. It is impermanent not because Buddha has mentioned it, rather under our real observation, under our own eyes, it has to become impermanent. If it is really impermanent, it is not that because Buddha has mentioned it is impermanent, rather for our eyes also it has to be impermanent. It is not that our naked eye, rather when we are having a well concentrated mind with well established mindfulness, you are observing particular phenomena. It may be some kind of element characteristics, it may be certain feelings, it may be a thought pattern, it may be certain state of mind. So everything you are investigating very rationally, not really rationally, sort of with an open mind, unbiased mind, neutral mind, investigative mind, you are observing. Again and again you are observing, not just one time. Again and again you are observing. So this is really the observation part, investigative part of the Dhamma. There is one enlightenment factor called Dhamma Vichaya. So Dhamma Vichaya only develops when you have this kind of attitude. It is not anything that being biased is included here. Rather you have a kind of an attitude of an investigator, kind of a scientist, where you are doing some impartial observation, unbiased observation under your very nose, what is really happening. Tandammang panyaya pavichinati pavichayati parivimansang apajjati. That is how Buddha is explaining Dhammavicaya Sambojjhanga. Whatever the phenomena under the scrutiny, under your investigation, you are observing it, you are examining it. Again and again you are thoroughly examining it. Because of that examination, the Dhammavicaya Sambojjhanga is developing. Investigative factor, enlightenment factor is developing. Again and again, once you are doing it, it is coming to a culmination. Bhavanaya paripuring gacchati. Because of this investigative attitude, again and again you are meditating, investigation to various phenomena. Because of this investigation, this Dhammavicaya Sambojjhanga coming to its culmination, complete fulfillment. So, if something is impermanent, it has to be impermanent for us as well. If something is unsatisfactory, we should realize that yes, it is unsatisfactory. If something is non-self, we should be able to understand that, we should be able to realize that it is non-self. Not because that Buddha is telling it is non-self, rather we ourselves have to realize it through investigation. So till that we have to have an open mind. We have to have a very unbiased attitude to check it, to investigate it. So this gives us some kind of a open-minded attitude rather than simply blindly believe anything. So this is something Buddha encourages, and again the Dhamma asking us to come and test it. Ehi passiko, come and check me, come and test me, come and put it me into practice and see for yourself. It's really beautiful, really encouraging the investigation, and then we can come to a real understanding. Then we can come to a real realization. So with that fact, I can conclude today's Dhamma sermon. So this Chanki Sutta is giving various aspects of the Buddha's teaching and the value of this investigation, and we'll look into the other aspects on tomorrow's Dhamma sermon. And thank you very much for listening.